Hello, everyone, and welcome to Couples in Conversation Season 4. Super excited to be back to share with you guys. Listen, all of the messages that you guys have been sending, the topic suggestions and all of those things, we are coming, I promise. We're going to get there. We're going to make it to those things and keep sending them in. We appreciate you. If you guys have any questions, even today during this feed, don't be afraid to drop those questions. We would love to answer them live. Just whatever you guys have for us, we are super open. We got a lot of exciting things that we're going to be sharing in the upcoming weeks, so I'm super excited. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health in relationships, and I'm super excited about this conversation specifically, and we'll get to that in a minute. But before we jump into our conversation, let me introduce our panel. We have my wife, Jennifer James. We have Fowler Nation, Toylise and Michael. We have our dating couple, JJ and Kiera, and we have our guest tonight, which is Trail. Thank you so much, Trail, for being here. And thank you, panel, for being here. Like I told you guys at the start of this season, we are going to be making sure that we are promoting everything that we're doing. So if you have something that you would like us to promote on this channel, just shoot us an email, we'll do it. Since we are talking about mental health today in relationships, I find it so incredibly fitting to let you know who our sponsor for this episode is. And it's my wife, Jennifer. If you have not gotten this book, Unmasked, A Pathway to Healing, you need to get it. It is such an incredible read. It's helped me. It's helped many people. And listen, and I'm not just saying that because my wife, and she's sitting right here, but it has such practical information, and the way that she tells a story and give nuggets and give helpful hints, it is amazing. So if you would like to purchase this book, and I'm sure it's going to come up in the conversation today, you can find this book at tjfproductionscompany.com or on Amazon. So I'll have that information in the show notes below, and then we'll talk more about it at the end of the episode. All right. So our topic for today is, and I want to read this verbatim just to make sure that we get the correct information. So our topic for today is it wrong to demand or suggest, is it wrong to demand or to suggest to your partner that they seek counseling if you feel like they need it? So if you feel like your partner needs counseling, is it wrong to demand or suggest that they go? And we're going to start this conversation off with Fowler Nation.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. So this is definitely a loaded question, but I do feel, yes, it's a loaded question. I do feel that it can start off as a suggestion based on different situations and issues and scenarios that you, I'll only speak for Fowler Nation, that my husband and I may go through. It can start off as a suggestion pending the circumstance. And if it does not get better, then yes, I say give it a nice little swift shove into demand, because what happens is when you see something, I may be able to see something that he cannot. And so if I'm saying, honey, you need to go talk to someone because this is going on. And yes, I'll make it a nice friendly suggestion, but if I'm steadily telling you and you're writing me off and ignoring me, then we're going to have a problem. And then, that's when other drastic measures have to come into play. Like, either you want to get help, or, I may have to start accepting applications.
Michael, what about you?
It's not inappropriate to suggest counseling. I mean, we probably all need counseling. Some of us are just more willing to accept it than others.
Amen.
Or realize it. But
I know you.
I don't think it's inappropriate. I don't think it's like a boundary that something that should be taboo or anything like that. With COVID going on now, I mean, I think it's opened up a lot of conversation regarding the mental wellness of individuals, because we've had time to be by ourselves more than what we like, some of us. But definitely, if you need it, even if you don't think you need it, but you just need to vent, try it out, see what happens, because your partner can only take so much. I mean, granted, you tell them a lot of things and stuff, but even in relationships, some people don't feel comfortable because they may feel you have a bias or something like that. So you might want to seek out an ear that's neutral, that doesn't have an opinion. They don't know you. All they can do is just advise on what you tell them and what they see. And that may be a safer place for some people to express.
Okay, JJ and Kiera, your thoughts. Is it appropriate, inappropriate? What do you think?
I think it's definitely appropriate. I went through some like dark spells within the pandemic and within our relationship. And there were definitely times where JJ will be like, well, I can help you look into therapy, or I can help you look into like treatments and counseling. So thankfully, I did receive therapy during the pandemic, but it was covered through my employer for 4 sessions. That 4 sessions went by quick. And when that woman told me that copay was $70, I was like, oh. Listen, I was like, is that per hour or is that per session? She said per session. I said, well, we will find somebody else, and we still happen to have like the same insurance. So he will help me find someone to talk to. Because like I have my informal support, like my village that I can talk to. I can ask them to pray for me. I can tell them a couple of things that's going on, but they're not going to give me the treatment, the guidance, and the counsel that I need to get through. But it's a good thing that I have a supportive partner who can reassure me and who can cover me in prayer, but also remind me like you do need to seek or find a counselor. Not my counselor, but you need to find a counselor.
Yeah, I think context means everything in this when you're answering this question, because yes, I think for us, I mean, especially too as a younger couple, like it's easier. Like in this generation, we kind of super promote like mental health and that being the forefront of everything. But when I was actually diagnosed with depression in 2014, yes, 2014. And it was not the easiest thing for me, especially being a Black man. My family, when they first heard about it, my father was very like distant. You'll get over it. Those are the type of responses you get. And growing up, it was similar. You know what I'm saying? Like it was hard to really understand what it was like to seek help, because you were always kind of like pushed towards. I mean, and this is just from the perspective of a Black man. Just it's hard to seek help, because usually that help, when you tried to seek help growing up, it was always you'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of translates into the real world, where it's like pride and ego gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to context, like I think like especially like with a lot of Black men, it's like you trying to tell your partner that they need help. And when all they've heard growing up is you'll get over it or you'll figure it out, you put your big boy pants on, it could be kind of humiliating to hear from your partner, maybe you should seek mental help. Now, I mean, fortunately for me, before I even started dating Kiera, I've already been seeking mental help and stuff like that. But I think that context is everything. And I know like one of the biggest messages that we try to convey through couples and conversations is communication is key. And you might have to have that conversation multiple times, and it might look different depending on, like I said, the context in that situation. Both of our past, we've had family members that have mental health issues. And so it's easier for us to talk about it and stuff like that. And so I think that sometimes that might not be easy, and you just gotta understand the context of what's going on in those situations.
Yeah.
All right, Trill, What are your thoughts?
As far as therapy, I believe that piggybacking off Michael said, we just went through a pandemic. So I don't believe no one is past seeking help or seeking someone to talk to. But as far as when you get into that force, that's where I kind of have a little feeling about that because I don't feel like you should force anyone to do anything they're not ready for. As much as you be able to tell them like, hey, you may need this, you may need this. Forcing someone to do something that's ultimately going to lead to an ultimatum. And I feel like ultimatums, those are, once you get an ultimatum in a relationship, it's pretty much over at that point. That's just my feeling. It was another point I was looking to make too. Piggybacking off what JJ was saying also, as far as like black men and mental health, I'm glad that stigma is going away because I was one of those people growing up where I felt I may have been going through depression or come to find out it was just anxiety. So, and not having many people to talk to seeking therapy did help with that a lot. But that also goes to say just mental health is just not depression. It's also other things. It could be addiction. It could be a gambling problem. It could be a liquor problem. All those things also fall into the line of mental health. So I believe definitely it's about your approach, how you approach telling someone may need mental help. That could also push them over the edge. So it's definitely about how you go about it. But I definitely feel like no one is beyond seeking mental help, but it's just how you go about it and just don't try to force it to where it's like it's us or the you go do this because I'm the type of person you give me an ultimatum, you're gonna get disappointed every time because I'm gonna purposely choose the other option.
Oh,
But that's just me. So
we're choosing violence.
yeah, absolutely. You can't go force me to do nothing with no ultimatum. Nah. But yeah, definitely.
All right. I'm going to share mine and then we're going to end with Jennifer. So when this topic first came up, at the inception of it, which is a little odd, and I'll kind of explain it in a minute, I was like, yeah, no. You don't get to like tell me I need to go seek counseling. And I think that was coming from a place of feeling judged, like for you to tell me I need to go seek help, my immediate initial response went to being judged. You know, as we have all talked about living as a Black man in America, we have to fight every single day and every way about everything. So to hear that something else is not right and we need help, quote unquote, in another way, my initial reaction was, no, I don't want you to tell me that. But once I thought about it, and especially being in my home, being partnered with somebody who is a mental health professional, mental health conversations, talking about it, going through it is part of like our everyday discussions. And so I was like, wait, why am I initially offended by this? Why did my mind go to that place? And I had to realize and recognize that I was putting the weight of the world on me. I was carrying all of the hurt, the shame, the guilt of being a Black man with me, that instead of taking something that could really do me good and do me well, and I turned it into, you know, this negative thing, and it wasn't negative at all. And it was so crazy because when I tell you guys, not that my wife counsels me, but literally mental health is just a part of what we do. Like even when we're discussing our children and how we raise them and how we talk to them and the conversations that we have with them, mental health is always very much a part of that conversation. So the fact that you know, this topic came up, I was like, that's so strange that I'm having this reaction. So I had to like process through it. And I didn't even talk to Jennifer about it. We never talk about the topics before because we want you guys to get a real live sense of, you know, how we process stuff. But that was my experience when I first read the topic. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Go ahead, Jennifer. What are your thoughts?
I agree with what everyone is saying as far as if it
appears to be a hindrance on your partner, and I say hindrance because everyone in some realm has struggles that they went through life, whether they identify them as traumas or not. But some traumas or some difficulties you're able to get through on your own, you're able to process or cope, and it doesn't necessarily impact you greatly. And so those things may not need to be sorted out. But then there's things that may impact you on a personal level, and then carry over into the relationship. And if I say that I love you and I am here as your partner to help you to be your best self, your greatest self, then sometimes I have to turn the mirror on you and allow you to see the things that you may not realize that is happening. You may not see how you're impacting, how you're moving, how your behaviors are showing up because of these other ailments. But again, as your partner or just in your relationship in general, because it can be friendships, it all depends on how I show that to you, right? So we can all be malicious sometimes and show the mirror, and I want you to see, the evil queen within you. Or you can tilt it towards them and say, I see that you're struggling with this, and this is hurting you, and it's hurting me to even watch you go through this. And I just want you to get better. I want you to be able to explore what this is. So I think it's all about how you present it to the person, and not in a way of forcing, like Trell said. It's more of this is what I'm observing on you. This is kind of the route that we could take, or a route that I've taken that has helped me, but then also allowing someone to explore on their own, right? Because you should never put somebody in a box and say, this is the path to your healing. This is the journey you should take. Everyone has to etch out their own journey and their own process of who they need to be. And then kind of to the men's point about, being a Black man, and there's stigma with being a Black woman too, and it needed to get help too. But I think that a big stigma, like everyone is saying, it's been addressed more because of the pandemic, and just with our new generation, like the millennials is like, help me, because
For real.
Life can't be like this. Like, we looking out, like we don't want to grow up, in no disrespect to our parents or our grandparents, like no disrespect to you guys, but we see the pain that you guys still hold. And we're like, we don't want that at 60 and 70. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has helped shape us, but we kind of want something different. And so I think that also plays a part into it. But it's also that shame that we carry, right? Because we're told as kids, everything stays in the house. So like these difficulties, like I can't really go to therapy because I'm telling a stranger about our household. I'm telling a stranger about not just my difficulties, but I'm talking about my family, my generational curses, right? Yeah. And so I'm uncovering everyone, but it's like, I can't hold your secret. Like I can't really worry about the mask that you're wearing. I gotta unveil me. Like I have to find me. And if that means uncovering a piece of you, like, I'm sorry, I hope that gets you to where you need to go, that you see that now I'm walking towards my healing and you can do it too. But I can't hold back on who I'm supposed to be because of the fear of the shame that's gonna follow me. And so I think that we're kind of disputing that now. Is like, it's not shame in getting my healing. It's not shame in becoming who I'm supposed to be, or shame in my husband being who he's supposed to be, because we're brought together in order to be this united front. But if we're both carrying these luggage, this baggage, we'll never meet that.
That was so good. That was so powerful. Twelise, I saw your hand. I'm coming to you, and I want to go to the comments too. But I want to say really quickly, Jennifer shared something about like the mirror. So I want to say this with rigor. When you are using the mirror method and you're turning the mirror on your partner, which I think is needed and is acceptable, please be conscious of when you're turning that mirror, because in the middle of a quarrel, it's not the time for you to try to turn the mirror and show me, because you gonna show me and I'm gonna show you, and we all gonna be naked in here, and not in a good way.
But you just wanted to say that because I pointed to the malicious. That was malicious. You just
I'm reclaiming your time. I'm reclaiming your time. Just be careful about when you're doing that, because that is so important, because especially when you're talking about mental health, right? Because if it's something that I'm dealing with or I'm talking about, and we're in the middle of intense fellowship, or, and we're talking about it, and you want to take that opportunity to say, yeah, this is what I've been talking about. This is why you need to go talk to somebody. That space becomes unsafe. And once you make your partner feel unsafe, it's hard to recover from that. And you have got to keep your home, every space in your house have to be safe. And if you do not keep it safe, there's going to be no potential for you to try to help your partner, because they're going to always feel attacked, or they're going to always feel like you are using this as something to kind of like push me down with. So I just wanted to say that. And I want to go to the comments really quick, and then I'm coming to you, Toylise. I see you, Dr. Lizzie, Renisha, I see all of y'all. Thank you so much for the comment. I want to go to Tammy's comment. She said, because most people are in denial or refuse seeking help, at what point do you take matters in your own hands, involuntary committing? So I want to break that down a little bit. At what point can you take it into your in your own hands? Is there a point where you take it into your own hands? What does that look like in a relationship? And Tammy, if you have more on that, I would love for you to comment. But panel, what do you guys think about that? Toylise, I want to come to you because I saw your hand.
In response to Tammy's question, I don't necessarily believe it all, you have to define what taking it into your own hands, that needs to be defined. Because what are you saying? Am I looking up doctors for you to talk to? Am I setting up an appointment and I'm telling you, I'm taking you on a date, and then surprise, go in there and talk to your doctor? I mean, what does define taking it to your own hands? What does that mean? But I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about not, saying, see, that's why, yada, 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 when you're in an intense fellowship with your partner. And for me, I am going to have to disagree with that, because there have been times where it's a very loving and polite suggestion has been made in casual conversation, and nothing came of it. But if my voice is elevated and you see the intensity in my face, and then I say, and this is why I'm saying you should yada, 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 I do believe, well, again, I can only speak for Fallen Nation, that in Fallen Nation, the point is conveyed more clearly when points are made during intense fellowship.
Is it really though? Or is that from your perspective? Because
So that's just the way it is. If
no, I don't think that's the way it is. I would love to hear my point on that, because
I'm speaking for both of us.
You can't tell him how they do it in Fallen Nation.
I'm trying to talk.
You cannot speak for both of y'all. I want him to comment on that, because I don't agree with that at all. Michael?
Spotlight on you.
See? He agreed. That's why he not saying he can't say something.
So I'm not gonna say it hasn't happened. It's happened. I mean, man, bye. Listen, look at the test. We were just arguing, flat out arguing. Okay. But I will say this, that I can see that my thing is all about repetition. I mean, we say it, we say things over and over again, and the first times it's nice and sweet and da 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 da, and then sometimes we are in that heated moment, and it does come back up again. As an example, because when I was talking nice and sweet and slow, you wanted me to put examples, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to think about it. But here's an example now. We're in it right now, so might as well bring it up. But it's not. But when it's like that, it's more of, we're trying to get our point, and I will say this, that we do learn when it's nice and sweet and subtle and stuff like that. But sometimes when you're in the moment and the situation comes up, you just have to point that out. Because a lot of times when you're talking about it, when it's nice and sweet, a lot of times it's not in the moment. A lot of times it's, I think we should have this conversation and we got to think about it now. And if you do try to pull up, in her words, receipts, Now I gotta think about, well, what did I do last week?
Well, that's because my husband's
What happened?
receipt ministry
You
is
know,
not that strong and
um,
mine is.
Is
So
this
reclaiming your time.
is this something I did yesterday? Is it something I did today, last week? What is it? Please explain it to me, because I don't know. I mean, my
And
mind
I have receipts every time, and my husband does not have receipts because he tries to say things to me, and I'm like, sir, no, because now you're making stuff up. But when I present my case before the court, I have all of my evidence.
But see, here's the thing. It also depends on how I take it, because I am very nonchalant. I mean, the way I look at life is totally different the way she does.
Amen.
If you bring it up in that moment, she'll get an attitude, hold a grudge, and it'll be the next 2
That
weeks.
is a lie.
When she brings me the mirror, I'm like, okay, well, you might be right. But
Whoa.
but no,
Reclaim.
but you're still wrong.
Reclaim.
You're still wrong. You might be right, but you're still wrong. But you know what? Okay, hey, tomorrow's a new day.
Reclaim.
Okay, I want to reclaim y'all time because I want to go to JJ and Kiera. What is your thoughts on this? Is it okay to bring this stuff up in the middle of a quarrel?
Yeah, so I think that in our relationship, usually, again, because like I said, I've been through years of counseling at this point. I know what my limits are. Like, if I'm very upset, I refuse to talk at that time. Like, I will wait it off. Usually, to answer, I did want to address Tammy's question though, real quick. I feel like, for me personally, this is not any way Kiera agreeing with what I'm saying, but for me personally, I never think that there's a time where you should feel like you have to force or take matters into your own hands. If I have children with a partner, and I feel like that situation is becoming unsafe, and I've mentioned that that they should seek therapy, and I feel like that after I've asked them a couple times, and that situation is becoming unsafe, instead of taking matter, when I say if you're talking taking matters into your own hands, as in possibly leaving that relationship or something like that, then yes. But I don't think that like you should force anybody. Trail said earlier about like giving ultimatums usually gives you a rebellious response, right? And so that's just that could lead to more dangerous behaviors. And so I never feel like you should do anything like that. But as far as it goes to quarreling, though, like, yeah, I can't agree with bringing up mental health things during the argument.
Period.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to add is accountability is everything. I know we say communication is everything, but also accountability. Oftentimes we have to understand that we're sometimes playing the role of the villain, and we want to play the role of the victim or the damsel in distress. And you have to acknowledge, that was my fault. That was my bad. That was my mistake. And not say this was my partner's mistake, because it takes two people to make a mistake. And usually it takes one person to make a mistake. And oftentimes you could be making that mistake or that accusation. So one thing in our relationship that I also have to process is he's not a mind reader. He can't determine what's going on in my thoughts if I don't say anything. And especially if it's something that deals with us, how is he supposed to know what's going on with us? Because in his mind, we're good. In my mind, I don't think we're good. So I have to take accountability, and I have to communicate my needs, my concerns, like even address like some petitions. But we don't have to necessarily go into a quarrel of, well, if you took your antidepressants, or if you went to like your therapist, or if like you sought therapy, that's like, we never go that far, that deep, because we actually have to acknowledge our triggers. And I think mental health is one of our triggers, along with referring to our past if he has disclosed a lot, like he has disclosed a lot of things to me about his past and vice versa. But if I throw that in his face, that's not helping the situation. That's not helping a mediation to occur with a therapist or with a pastor or with an elder of like our families to like let us know, all right, this is how you do it. Or even just with us trying to do it on our own together as a couple. But just to do something on your own, you have to acknowledge yourself first, and you have to work on yourself first. No one can work on you. Only you can work on yourself. Like if you expect your partner to make your life so much better and make your life so whole and pleasant, it's not their job to do that. It's your job to make sure that you're whole, you're enough, you're content, and you're willing to seek help. It's like if you tell somebody to stop smoking, they're not going to do it in a day. It's going to take time for them to stop smoking. And it's going to take time for them to acknowledge, like, okay, maybe this might not be best for my health, for them to acknowledge that. And I feel like the same is applicable when it comes to mental health. So that is my time. I'm reclaiming my time. I feel like Follow Nation was having a small quarrel.
They definitely were.
And I feel like we should mediate.
Jennifer and then Toylise.
So on the basic level, I get what you guys are saying as far as that your partner has the right to determine when they want to seek help at the basic level when we're talking about not simple things, but non-harmful things. However,
that's not what I was saying.
However, when it comes to more intense things, because mental health is very broad, right? Because specifically in Tammy's question, it was AE at the end of it, involuntary commitment, being involuntarily committed. You have to be assessed to be involuntarily committed into a mental health facility or the mental health wing, right? And so if you meet those thresholds, they will admit you. If as a partner, if I feel like you are a danger to yourself, a danger to others, and that can be different in different categories, right? I feel like it is my right, it is my duty to push you to get that help, because that can save your life, right? So I think that when answering those questions, like you guys were saying, like, give me more about what you're talking about, because that can go on two different levels. And I get that's not where you were speaking from, JJ, but I'm just saying in general, we do have to give them the ability to be accountable, to seek help on their own. But at the end of the day, I am your partner. I'm in here. I want you to be successful in life. And sometimes that does cause me to trump what you're feeling or trump what you're saying in order to get the immediate help. Now, that may cause friction within our relationship, long-term or short-term, but at the end of the day, I did what I felt like was right for you to get the assistance that you needed in that moment. Especially when you're talking about kids in the picture, right? Because they can't fend for themselves, right? And you're their parent. And so I need to make sure that you can be safe for them and you can be safe for you, and you're not making irrational judgment calls. So the other statement about bringing up things in a quarrel with mental health. Again, I think it goes back to how you bring it up. Like, I get what Michael and Toylise are saying, and obviously on some level it works for them. Because my husband is also one who's like, give me an example type of thing. And my memory is not good to give you an example. So in the midst of an argument, no, because I am still getting deliverance from my smart mouth. So in the midst of it, I probably would say something real off the wall if I was using that as an example. So I'm not going to do that, right? Because like JJ, I know my limits. And I'm just not there yet when it comes to that. So I probably can't take it down and be like, this, babe, this is what I'm talking about. You should probably get help. That has to be like after the quarrel. And we talk about, when we was going back and forth, this is what I'm talking about, that, I think it would be helpful for you to look into that. I don't think that it would be appropriate, because a lot of times it's like we use it as a dig, or like it's in a degrading inference when we're using it in the quarrel versus it trying to be helpful, right? Because they feel attacked. Like if we're going back and forth and you're like, that's why you need to go talk to somebody, I'm gonna feel like you're attacking me. You're telling me that I'm this bad person, or I'm beneath you, and that's another thing that I go that extreme or whatever. But when you bring it up, you don't really know how it's going to be perceived, because our emotions are already high if we're going back and forth. So I feel like if you really want it to be received, take that 10 minutes, cool down, and come back, and you can still use that as a receipt, like Twillis was saying, because it just happened. It's fresh. It's something that I can tell you, this is an example. But in the heat of the moment, I think that is really hard for most people to be able to receive it and to give it in a loving manner.
Yeah, you can't weaponize it. If you weaponize it, it's over. Go ahead, Twillis.
Okay, so in Follow Nation, I'm gonna just use these two examples. My husband has a slick mouth ministry, and I had a physical ministry. Now, you'll hear my husband say all the time that he is a survivor of domestic violence, but that is not true. But that was my truth, that it was not true. But it did take some help. So the mirror was actually turned on me. And what I thought was just playful banter with my husband, he actually felt like he was really being abused. So I had to, as Kiara said, I did have to look in that mirror and take accountability for that, and realize, oh, okay, so he actually really thinking I'm trying to fight him like he a stranger out on the street. And that did calm down a whole lot. However, my husband's slick mouth ministry is that was what I told him that he needed to go and talk to somebody about, because his mouth is slick, and it's so slick that he don't even really be understanding some of the things that he say. And some of the things, and I've told him on several occasions, be it calm like how I am now, or in the midst of an intense of an intense fellowship, I have told him, baby, that mouth one day of yours gonna write a check that your behind cannot cash. And you're gonna be in the line by yourself at the store trying to cash it. And so yes, sometimes when Michael and I are in the heat of something and he says something, and like Jennifer just said, maybe not necessarily right at that very second, but there have been times where I've come back and I said, listen, you said this, and baby, I'm, being completely transparent, this what you said almost cost you your marriage.
And I can I rebuttal that?
Absolutely, please.
Thank you. So I do admit that, yes, both our responses, I believe, can be slick, though.
No.
You may feel that mine's a little slicker than yours, but I will say this, that yes, it may not have been a point of like black eyes and stuff like that, but yes.
Oh, you mean like hitting?
That playful banter, yeah. Because I don't play hit. I don't do all that stuff.
Me neither.
And you grew up, in this karate gym or whatever you want to call
it. Karate room,
whatever. It's abuse. Okay. You should never say that you are my husband, you are my punching bag ever in life.
That was just like, you my husband, you my punching bag.
But you actually meant
Police
that.
reclaiming.
You actually meant that, because my kids can validate that you whatever. So
I ain't never seen no black eyes.
But I did have to seek help. Who do you
seek help from?
My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. When they came to Florida, they validated for me
Period. And did.
Okay?
Did I not say that the mirror was turned on me
The
and
mirror-
I accepted my responsibility?
Amy.
Don't get slapped.
But I do want to say that yes, because kids are involved, and even if kids are not involved, if you become a danger to yourself and to me, then that's when the partner should be stepping in to do something.
Yeah, but what if it's verbal?
Um,
Verbally, are you
I'm
really
just talking about-
danger
I'm
verbally?
Yes,
Yes.
because verbal abuse
Yes.
is a sin.
verbal.
I mean,
verbal
you
No,
abuse
but
is
I'm
a
but
thing.
I'm saying in the
But-
terms I'm saying in the terms of what he just said, as far
Right.
as being a danger to yourself or to one of the kids or something.
Verbal abuse is a thing, and and when you turn that mirror on me, I did have to think about that and say, you know, what have I been saying to my wife these past 16, 17 years? When does she, because you feel like I have a slick mouth. So I've thought about that. When have I been slick? You know, back in the early days.
And I did provide
when-
receipts.
When your
I
brother
did
came
provide
by in New
receipts.
York, I was verbally abusive. I admit that to a
You
degree.
were or you are?
I don't know about present, but I will admit past.
Okay, I'm reclaiming y'all time. I want to, there is something that we do called rapid fire, and there's a question from a new follower, Meg Watt. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I want to use this as a rapid fire question. For those of you who are new to our channel, rapid fire is a question that we ask, and we give every panelist 30 seconds, 30 seconds to respond to the question. And Meg wrote in the chat, therapy should be a prerequisite for all relationships. The more we know of our true selves, the better all of our relationships go. So what do you think about that? I want to give everybody 30 seconds, 30 seconds to respond to that. We're going to start with Kiera, JJ, then Trail, then Fowler Nation, then Jennifer, then myself. 30 seconds.
I'm indecisive. Honestly, because it's like yes and no. Just depends on the relationship.
Okay, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice plus for sure, but I don't think that always happens. I mean, you could look at older couples. Therapy might not have been involved in them getting together, and there's a lot of relationships that have worked in those situations. But yeah, as a prerequisite, it's definitely a plus in my book. The reason why I stayed with Kiera is because, you know, she took mental health seriously. So, you know, for me, yes, but you know, I think that the context again plays a part in that. So.
Okay, Trail.
I'm gonna have to disagree off the strength that she did use the word prerequisite. A prerequisite, that's coming in something you have to have established before even getting into that. I may not even know I need therapy until I get into a relationship. So I'm gonna have to say no off that, but definitely think once you are, absolutely yes, therapy, 100%.
Okay, Fowler Nation.
I think I'm on the fence as well because I agree with what Trail said as far as I may not even know that I need therapy going into a relationship. While therapy is definitely great if it's something that you were doing, all along. But to say before we try to embark on a journey together, you need to go into therapy. I don't know.
I think it just depends on the relationship and who your partner is at that point in time, or who you're trying to make be a partner.
Yeah, but
I think you should, if it's important to you, you should definitely bring it up.
But you're still getting to know them.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, I understand you're still getting to know them, but y'all, you know, we just all get to know each other
In therapy.
Okay. I mean, we've been married for 17 years, and it's like we need to book a session right now.
I know you right.
And do. Go ahead, babe.
You having frank time.
Like Trail, I would have to say no because of the word prerequisite. Can therapy be helpful? Absolutely. Do I think that everyone at some period in their life could benefit from therapy? Yes, but that period may not have happened for them yet. So they may not need it. And then also, again, they may not know that they need it, because sometimes we're going to therapy because of things within our family life, but I may not know that it's not healthy because this is how I grew up. This is normal for me. I got around friends who were just like me. So to me, this is normal. So I don't know until I reach out into another relationship and like, oh, this probably is not healthy. This probably isn't normal. So I wouldn't know that that was needed. So this idea of a prerequisite doesn't really align with it. However, I do agree with her statement that knowing yourself will make the best relationship, or something that she said. Yes, knowing yourself, but as you evolve, whether you want to or not, you're going to evolve and you're going to discover new things about yourself. And when you feel like you are struggling with your identity, or struggling with this new phase in you, therapy should definitely be an option, but I don't think that it's always a prerequisite or a matter that is needed to be addressed right here and right now. You still thinking?
I'm not really thinking. I
You're not
am
thinking?
no, well, I am thinking, but I'm not, I'm processing. That's what's
Okay.
happening here.
All right.
Um,
Can you process out loud for us?
yes, I'm trying to, because this is, and I know this is rapid fire, but I'm the moderator, so I'm gonna take some liberty here. I kind of agree with this statement. And the reason why I agree with this statement is because whether therapy is not only for people that are experiencing issues. You don't have to be going through something traumatic, or you don't have to be experiencing this horrible moment or trying to process this horrible event for therapy to be suitable and for therapy to be helpful for you. I think one of the things that therapy does is it unlocks your mind in such a way, and it gets you to look at stuff from a different perspective. And in a lot of cases, you would have probably never even thought about. You are so wired with how you've come up, how you learned, how you grew, that you are just like, this is how I am, this is how I operate, and that's how you function. Going to therapy isn't necessarily going to make that better or worse. I mean, it's not going to make it worse. And I think it will help you see those things more clear. And on top of that, I don't think we talk enough about self-identity and who we are, and is it okay for us to be us? You know, I was reading something, I was watching, I think, TikTok yesterday, and there was this girl that was sharing, and it was like maybe a 2-minute video, and it was talking about why, you know, children don't call their parents when they get older and stuff like that. And it was talking about like how the parent was saying stuff about how other people thought like the child and doing stuff that the child liked. And then the child was listening to that. And because the child heard that, the child was not open with the parent. And I think stuff like that happens all the time, because I think you can only, as a parent, and as a person, you can only help somebody to your level of capacity. I can't help you with anything that I don't have the capacity for. And I think counseling gives you capacity in a way that is like second to none. One thing that my wife said probably 3 years ago that was super unlocking for me as a wife, but it still is a personal thing. She said, I cannot cover what you don't expose, right? And in our lives, we don't do a lot of exposing. because going back to that, what happens in this house stays in this house. You don't talk about it, outside of the house. But some of that stuff we need to talk about. We need to work through that stuff. We need to process through it. And if I can go to therapy before I get into a relationship, I think that could be great. So I agree. Go ahead.
I get what you're saying about going to therapy even when something is not bad, but that is different than what the question was. The question was it being a prerequisite, meaning it is required before going into a relationship. And I'm saying that it's
a control thing. That's what I mean.
It's not a control thing, first of all. So stay out of your control.
Y'all don't like being in control.
No, what I'm saying is, like I said before, yes, it could be helpful, but to put the stipulation of it is a requirement, it's not necessarily a requirement. I've had clients who come in, especially when I was working with college campus, they found out about counseling and it was us. They were just coming to do a check-in. It was helpful, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that it was required for them to be successful. We talk about a lot of different things in counseling, about relationships, about career choices, just about identity, but they weren't necessarily at a down point in their life. So what could they have been successful? Could they have made it to the next year? Could they have done these things? And everyone has their own tool sets to get through different things in life. And so depending on that, and then also your circle and different things like that, not everyone grew up like us having, these certain family traumas or different things like that, that you were talking about, we need to work through. And so for them, they can function without seeking counseling immediately. So I'm not saying that it can't be helpful. Yes, it can be helpful, but I'm saying that the stipulation of it is required is what makes that not an okay statement for me.
Go ahead, Toylise.
Definitely agree with what Jennifer just said. And something else that we need to keep in mind as far as this prerequisite ministry is that when it comes down to therapy and knowing if it's something you were doing all along, okay, fine, cool. Do you, because apparently this is helping you and it's helping you become the best you that you can possibly be. But when you are in the process of developing and building a relationship, the me that I was when it was just me is going to change and evolve because now it's me. And so how can you say that you must go to before we can even talk about a relationship, you must go to therapy and blah 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 blah, because if I say okay fine, I'm going, that's still just something that's helping me and developing me, but it's not something that will necessarily, I guess it can help us, but when you are going from singleness and into getting into a relationship with someone, that's still a change and an evolving within you yourself. So either way, how can I say this? Going into therapy, I feel is more beneficial when you are with someone because they can see things that you possibly cannot.
Okay, go ahead, Trail.
I definitely agree with everything Toylise was just saying, but to piggyback something off JJ said, a lot of people don't find their best selves at quote unquote therapy. Some people do find their best selves in church or around their other people or even in jobs and things like that. So playing devil's advocate, I always come back to, no offense to Jennifer, but who are you to tell me I need mental help? Like that sometimes be my thought process, because in my opinion, if nobody is beyond mental health, who are you to diagnose me saying I need mental health? So to say that it's a prerequisite before, like, nah, I definitely can't get with that.
So I want to go to Tiffany left a comment. She said, but are people really transparent in therapy, or are they putting their best foot forward saying what the therapist wants to hear? I can't really speak to that because I think that's crazy to go to therapy and not be transparent. What you got
Well, that's-
something, Kier?
Yes, I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. My life growing up, I thought something was wrong with me being a product of a blended family. So I have my mom, my stepdad, and my dad and his fiance. And I remember the very first time we received family therapy. And I remember my mom specifically, and I love my mom dearly, saying, don't tell the therapist everything. That sucked because I wanted to tell the therapist this burden that I felt like I had to keep, me being a product of a different father, as a secret.
Mhm.
So that for me as a child and entering and just being an adult, being a woman, is hard because it's like family secrets affect the child more than the person who wants that to be a secret.
Yeah.
And you have to be honest. And like when I met my therapist before she started to ask for $70, but I'm being for real, I told her how heavy that was for me for years and how I thought my life was so complicated and no one would understand my life. And I thought I was all by myself, but I went to college and there's so many women. I went to all women's college. They're like, yeah, my parents aren't together. They couldn't co-parent. My mom got married, had a stepdad, or my dad got married, had stepmom, and I had to pick between houses. And I'm like, oh my God. So like, I really wasn't by myself when I went through this phase as a child. And like my dad says often, like if things were differently, my life could have been easier. So that's what I mean by like, when you enter therapy, you shouldn't have to be restricted on what you should say, because that is your space to say what's going on in your mind and what's bothering your heart and your spirit. And that was the key that bothered me for most of my life. And I'm still healing from it. I'm still trying to like make it make sense to my family. Like, I love my dad. I can claim all four parents. Like when I can say I have a favorite parent, I can really say that. Not everyone can say, oh, I have the bestest mom. I can say I can have the best mom or the best stepmom. I can pick. But I would love for my life one day to be at ease. And I would love to meet a therapist that can further help me with that. I don't want to call it shame, but I will just refer to it as a burden for now. So I can be at peace and I can be free and I can fully accept, like, I'm a dope child that was born into this world and I have four parents who love me, you know?
Can I also make a statement real quick? Just wanted to clarify too, like, as we talk about this, I hope that people understand that therapy is not like the savior of the world. Like, you know, like this is like an assist to, you know, healing and things like that. Like therapy is not the be all answer. You know what I'm saying? Like Kiera, like you said, in that situation, like just meeting with other people along with that and understanding that other people share similar situations. Like when I go into my sessions, I have that in mind. Like my therapist is not there to save me. And matter of fact, I couldn't stand her the first 2 weeks because she wasn't giving me answers. She was just like, okay, well, how does that make you feel? Like, that's not why I'm here. I know how it made me feel.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. You know, I'm here because I thought I wanted answers, but then I understood, like, eventually, like, yo, I'm here to talk, and she's providing an eye that's outside of the situation. And you know, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have the answers to everything. And so therapy is just an assist, and I think that should be clarified. Like that it's not, you know, this is not something that we're asking. If I'm asking my partner, hey, I think you should seek therapy, it's not because I think it's going to just like over the next couple of sessions going to save your life. But I think that it's just some things that you might want to address or that you need to look deeper into that I feel like therapy might help. And so I think that's it. I just wanted to clarify that too as well, just because as I'm looking at the comments, I just want people to know, mental health is serious. Like even like the stuff that Trell mentioned earlier, like it's not just depression and anxiety, but it could be alcoholism, like the situation with having a feeling of need and want for blended families and stuff like that. Like it could be different things, and like all of those things are serious. Like none of it is like depression is not up here, and alcoholism down here. It's all, they all can be serious to an extent, and like you just have to address them all contextually. And therapy is just one of the many things that can help towards that.
It's a tool for sure. Go ahead.
So two things. Okay. So when it comes to therapy, one, like JJ was saying, it is not, we don't wave this magic wand and everything about your life just disappears. When you think about therapy, you should think about it more as this person or this therapist, psychologist, whoever you go see, is helping you assess your toolbox. You are the toolbox and you come with tools. With anybody that comes into therapy, they may think that we are giving you everything that we have, but it's really, we're assessing the tools in your toolbox. And depending on what part of your journey that you're going through, we may identify that, hey, maybe, this tool, I can help you develop another tool to add to your toolbox. But ultimately, I'm just helping you learn how to better utilize the tools that you already have. Making you aware of these coping skills or these strategies that you have within you that you may not be using effectively, or that you can tweak to address multiple things. And so it's not I am this superior being and I know all. It's about you assessing your life and helping you throughout this journey. And then secondly, sorry, when it comes to your partner and you being your true self and working together to develop whatever this relationship is going to be. Ultimately, it's up for you guys to decide what is best for you guys. When we come on this panel, we're talking from our lived experience, some shared experience that we may have experienced through other people, but it's not one pathway to anything. Your healing is your healing, and however you do that is rightfully your way. But we just want you to know that it's okay. You're not alone in your hurt. You're not alone in your pain. You don't have to feel shame of your family. You don't have to feel shame of you. Like, get what you need. And when it comes to going to counseling, that's why your first session, or even sometimes before your first session, they make you sign a confidentiality, and they agree to confidentiality because they want to develop that safe space with you so that you don't feel like you're in these confines of not being able to show your true self, not to be able to identify with who you are and the things that you bring into there and be free. Therapy is supposed to be a relationship building. So going back to the question of who comes in and doesn't really talk about their problems or doesn't want to be real, just like regular relationship, you want to test the waters. You want to find out, is it really safe here? And that's okay. Most therapists realize I'm not going to get all of you in your first session. That's completely fine. But it's just a step forward if that's the route that you decide to take. But there's also other routes to healing, other routes to your journey that you are welcome to.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with that. And we are out of time. We are actually over our time, but I wanted to read this quote because I think it's so fitting. While we want to make it clear that, therapy is a tool, it's just a tool. And there are so many tools. There's a myriad of tools that you can use. But when you get to a place where you don't know where to go if you need help, there are many, many tools. And I want to read this excerpt, and this is quote, "You dig up shame and guilt. It's okay. You are getting closer to your treasure. You dig up self-hate. It's okay. The shine of gold is becoming visible. You dig up failure. It's okay. Diamonds are rough until they're purified." So that was an excerpt from Unmasked: The Pathway to Healing the book that I spoke about at the beginning. And one of the things that I love so much about talking about healing and working through healing is it is unfolded in so many different ways. So many different ways. I mean, I have had the opportunity, you know, with my wife to see her work this process out and then to see her write a book about it. One of the things that I always share with the people that I coach in leadership is if you really want to know if you really understand something, teach it to somebody else. And the fact that I've seen this get taught and walked out and worked out, it's another tool. So it doesn't matter what you're digging up. If you feel like you are in need of healing, of help, figure out what tool works best for you. Counseling is a good one, but it's not the only one. It's a good start. It's a good, you know, it will help you with momentum, but there's so many things. Pick up a book, Unmask, A Pathway to Healing. Great tool right here. And it is jam-packed. You literally can't even do it in one setting. You have to like take it in and like, okay, swallow, let me breathe, you know, and counseling can be the same way. You can get in sessions and you can be like, this is too much. Like I can't even, let's stop the session and you can start over next week because it's up to you. Your healing, your journey, your process. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about this topic or any topic that we have talked about in this conversation, feel free to send us an email, couplesinconversations@gmail.com. We would love to talk about those things. If you feel like you have a topic that you would like for us to discuss this season, which it ends in April, please shoot those information over to us. We go live on Mondays. We have a lot of special episodes coming up where you get to see like one-on-one information from our panelists and we go in depth with our stories. So just make sure that you stay connected with us, follow the page, leave a comment. As you can see, we love to bring y'all into the conversation. And if you ever need help finding us, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. Use the hashtag Get In on the conversation. All right. If what was I about to say?
Not sure.
I done forgot. Again, if you have any other questions, please let us know. Until next time, we are Couples in Conversations. And remember that communication is everything. We'll see you next week.